Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining our University of Leicester Postgraduate Digital Open Day today. My name's Elliot. I'm our Head of UK Recruitment and Outreach at the University of Leicester, and I'm your host for today's welcome session. We've got a fantastic day lined up for you with lots of different live presentations and live chats. So it's a great opportunity for you to find out all you need to know about postgraduate study at Leicester. I know a lot of students on today's Open Day have applied already to the university, so you might have some really specific questions. Some of you might be thinking about applying to the university, and you might have some broader questions as well. And we're here as a university to help today. So please feel free to make use of all we've got. I'm gonna do a quick introduction to the session and show you how to use Teams Live as a feature if you've not used it before. If you have got any questions throughout today's welcome panel, then if you use the Q&A function, which you should see in the top right hand side of your screen, feel free to pop any question you've got in there throughout the panel session. We'll be going through those throughout the session. We've got a couple of colleagues, Christina and Conrad, behind the scenes typing away answers as the questions come through. And we've also got 4 expert panelists from across the university who can take your questions as well. The session is being recorded and it will be available afterwards. And we have also got the welcome panel from our previous Open Day in May that had colleagues from our law school and School of Education and School of Psychology on there as well. If you want to kind of rewatch any of that content, then feel free to do so. There's lots of different on-demand recordings already on the Postgrad Open Days page. But without further ado, I'm going to kick off today's presentation with a few introduction slides about the university, for those of you that don't know too much about it already, and then we'll move on to our panel session with our 4 colleagues from across Leicester. So in terms of the University of Leicester, you might be thinking, well, why should I apply to study here, or why have I applied to study here if you have already submitted an application? And I think one of the main things to kind of really reinforce is the broad strength of the university. We are a really excellent university at producing top level kind of senior management colleagues, in terms of the CEOs that we produce as an institution. That we're top 10 in the country for that. In terms of general performance, we're one of the highest performing universities in the UK in world rankings, so within the top 25, which is really, really excellent, and a real testament to all the good work that goes on here at the university. If you've not been to the university and the city of Leicester before, it's a really affordable city based in the UK, with the 3rd most affordable according to NatWest, the big global bank, which is great, particularly as a postgrad student, to ensure any funding or scholarships that you have go a long way to contribute to your study. We're a really eco-friendly university. I think 21st in the world. If you think about how many universities there are, that's a really fantastic achievement, and a real testament again to our ethos as an institution. And a lot of students get into postgraduate study to think about further employment and enhancing career potential. And as you'll see in the bottom right there, we have a fantastic graduate employment rate from postgraduate study, which is again a really excellent opportunity for you to get involved here at Leicester. In terms of why postgraduate study in the first place, there'll be those of you watching today's session that for a variety of reasons are considering postgraduate study, and it's not really for me to say why for you it's the best thing to do, but there's a variety of reasons, and we'll cover some of these in our panel session today. It could be that it's the next step in your academic progression, so you might be looking at going on from maybe undergrad to postgrad study to maybe then progress into kind of more research or PGR or PhDs. It might be that you've got a really clear career plan in mind, and this is again the next step that helps facilitate that career plan. There's a whole heap of reasons, and actually one of the things we've seen due to the kind of pandemic is that the increase in employer demand for postgraduate students is heightened. So it's a really good opportunity to kind of stand out in a CV when you're applying for jobs within the next kind of 18 to 24 months or so. Just to talk a little bit about the University of Leicester campus. Again, for those of you that have not been able to visit, obviously we've been fairly limited over the last 12 months or so for obvious reasons, but we're a campus-based university, and we're really close to the city centre of Leicester, which is about a 15-minute walk away from the main campus. It's a really excellent university in terms of facilities. So we've got some fantastic academic facilities as well as sports and social facilities. We've recently invested heavily in our students' union facility, which has recently opened, and it's a really an amazing resource now, as well as things like our library and our sports centres. We've got lots of opportunities for kind of postgraduate study spaces across the campus as well, which as a postgraduate student you'd find yourself using a lot if you are campus based. It's something that we've invested in over the last few years or so. In terms of the library, and again in terms of your academia and how you use that type of resource, it's a £32 million library. It's 24/7 throughout term time, so you can use it whenever, wherever. And it's also got a lot of fantastic e-resources. So for those of you studying from further afield, you still be able to access a huge amount of resource via the University of Leicester library. We offer a lot of support as an institution, and this can be across all different areas, from accessibility, from chaplaincy, from kind of welfare, from funding, scholarships, etc. Personal tutoring, and again, our colleagues across the panel will cover this in detail as we're going through. But one of the things I wanted to reinforce is that for any of you considering postgraduate study there, and for those of you that may be slightly anxious about starting postgraduate study, don't worry, we are here to support, and we've got colleagues across the institution who would be more than happy to do so. The main thing there is to be proactive if you do need support, and please do reach out to the relevant areas. We've got a fantastic student support centre in our new Students' Union, which is there all the time to make sure that you're getting on okay. In terms of accommodation, and again, those of you looking to come and study in Leicester, we've got a fantastic accommodation as a university. We've got a really detailed presentation coming up at 1 p.m. UK time, so please do make sure you tune into that. That will also be available afterwards as an on-demand session too, if you aren't able to stick around the whole of the morning. But there are a range of different accommodation for postgraduate students. A lot of it is located pretty close to the university, kind of 5-10 minute walk away. All of them are self-catered with ensuite facilities, so really flexible opportunities for you there. And you get a lot of different activities as part of that. So if you wanted to get kind of stuck into areas of kind of social or extracurricular life, then that applies too. But I won't cover too much about accommodation. As I said, we've got a really specific live presentation on it, and we also do have accommodation colleagues in our live chat, which is opening at 11 a.m. So please do feel free, if you've got particular questions you'd like to ask of our accommodation colleagues, then please do use that chat facility. In terms of the city of Leicester, again, from a student perspective, it's an hour from London, which I think is a really important thing to mention. In terms of on the train, it's a direct train into St Pancras in London in an hour, which is great news. It's about 50 minutes on the train to Birmingham as well. So Leicester as a city is located pretty much smack bang in the middle of England. It's a really diverse city, a very inclusive city with no ethnic majority. It's got some fantastic cultural festivals in terms of both the kind of Diwali festival, the Caribbean festival, Caribbean Carnival. They're some of the biggest festivals outside of their respective locations, and a really different kind of multicultural city, a really entertaining city. There's lots of different bars, restaurants, shopping opportunities with a massive shopping centre, as well as it being located pretty close to the countryside. So if you do want to get out of the city and into some greenery, then it's really easy to do so from the city of Leicester, which is a really nice contrast actually. And as a university campus, we're located right next to Victoria Park. So if you are studying on campus and you do want, if the sun's out, if you do want to go and kind of spread out into the park, then you can do that as well. In terms of funding, again, I'm not going to cover this in too much detail because this will differ widely if you're based in the UK, based overseas. But just to say, we do have a really specific sessions coming up as our next live presentations on either funding your postgraduate study as a UK student, or for international students starting in September as well. There's a separate session which again will cover in detail any funding queries, and with the live chats that we've got starting at 11, there are opportunities there to chat to our both our funding teams, our welfare teams, and our international teams there too. So there is a wide range of postgraduate funding out there. Some of it you have to go looking for, some of it's quite specific, and obviously will relate on either the course you've applied for or the area of the world that you might be applying from. But please do look out at those two websites links at the bottom, so our scholarships page and our fees and funding page, as there's a heap of detail on there about postgraduate opportunities. And as I said, those live presentations are available at 11 o'clock this morning UK time. If you can't make those, again, they are all being recorded and will be available afterwards. Our careers service at the university, I talked earlier about the employment opportunities, and our careers service puts on a lot of support for postgraduate students. As we know, obviously, a lot of you are getting into it to kind of enhance your career potential. And again, we've got a live presentation at 1 p.m. Early afternoon UK time. from our careers department, and to give you again a really in-depth breakdown of all the support that's provided. But kind of as you'll see on the slide there, in a nutshell, they provide a range of different activities, events, support, one-to-one support or group support, mock interviews, mock assessment centres if that's something that you're looking at getting into. And again, just really detailed advice all throughout your time as a postgraduate student. Again, if you can't access the live presentation today, it will be available afterwards. And there is already a session on our Postgraduate Open Day page that was recorded from the last Open Day from Maxine in our careers team. So please do feel free to have a watch of that as well. Okay, so that's about it from me. We're going to start our panel discussion now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring our colleagues from across the institution on screen to introduce themselves. The objective of this panel is to really give you an in-depth insight into different people's opinions and expert analysis of postgraduate study from across the institution. We've got 4 different colleagues, and I'm going to bring them all on screen one at a time. So first off, we've got Caroline. So over to you, Caroline.
Thank you, Elliot. Good morning, good afternoon, welcome everybody. My name's Caroline Upton. I'm a Professor of Environmental Geographies in the School of Geography, Geology and the Environment. And I'm a human geographer, I'm a social scientist. So my research and teaching connected to that is focusing on some of the big challenges that we're facing around environmental change, resilience, environmental governance, justice. And I've recently taken the lead in developing a new Environmental Futures Masters programme that we're very excited to be launching this September. So I'm the director of that programme, and so I'm really pleased that's something we can now offer within our postgraduate portfolio, and look forward to some questions on that later. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And over to Jonathan.
Thanks, Elliot. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you all. So I'm Jonathan McDermott. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Neuroscience, Psychology and Behaviour. My research is focused on motor systems. So we study the neural mechanisms of motor development and control, and we also study motor diseases, in particular amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. The reason why I'm on this panel today is one of my other jobs for the university is I'm the director for taught postgraduate courses in the College of Life Science as well. So I'll be happy to talk to you about anything life sciences related. Thank you very much, Elliot.
Great, and over to Bledin.
Hi, morning everyone. My name is Bledin Bowen. I'm the director of postgraduate campus teaching at the School of History, Politics and International Relations, and I focus on our 3 international relations campus programs. My own area of specialty is on space warfare, space policy, and international relations broadly writ in outer space.
And finally, Kaustav.
Hello everyone, welcome to this Digital Open Day. So I am Kaustav. I'm a lecturer in economics at the Department of Economics, Finance and Accounting at the School of Business. And I'm also the director of admissions and recruitment for the undergraduate and postgraduate programs in the School of Business. My research focuses mainly on learning and applied microeconomics, but recently I have also published on how should governments actually plan lockdowns during a pandemic, which is a very topical issue. And regarding all the programs, we have postgraduate programs in management, accounting and finance, and economics. They have their differences, but there is always a thread which connects all these 3 programs. And over the time, I'm happy to answer any kind of questions we have. We will also have specific chats from 12 to 2 about these subjects as well. Thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you very much. So thank you to the panel for introducing themselves. So as we said, we've got a range of questions, and feel free, if you've got questions yourself for any of the panelists or generally about postgraduate study at Leicester, feel free to use the Q&A function throughout the rest of today's session. I'm going to kick off proceedings with a quick question for the panel as a bit of an introduction, and it's going to come to Caroline first. So Caroline, what do you think are the main benefits of postgraduate study?
Thank you. I think one way to answer that is to think about the range of postgraduate taught programs we have in our school. So as well as the Environmental Futures program I mentioned, we have Masters in GIS with industry and satellite data science. So across our range of postgraduate programs, I think students come to us because these programs allow them to develop and refine interests they may have developed during their undergraduate careers. So we have people coming through from geography, from earth sciences, from environmental and life science backgrounds, for example. For people who want to specialise in a particular skill, particular techniques and their applications, for example, GIS and satellite data science, then our master's programmes are tailored to develop your very specific skills in these areas. For the Environmental Futures Masters, then again, you have a number of pathways through that where you may want to look at the applications of Earth observation and remote sensing to key environmental challenges. You may be more interested in some of the social science debates, etc. But overall, you are able to develop, refine your specific skills. It gives you an edge in the job market. Employers, as Elliot said, are increasingly looking for postgraduate qualifications. And for some people, they may use a taught master's as a stepping stone to further PhD study. It allows them to really immerse themselves in a particular area, perhaps through a postgraduate dissertation that they may then take on and feed into a PhD.
Brilliant, thanks, Caroline. Jonathan, from your perspective, in our Life Sciences College, what do you think the main benefits would be?
Okay, thanks, Elliot. I mean, the benefits are multifactorial, I think. I mean, more broadly, I mean, it gives students an opportunity to broaden their intellectual interests and also specialise, so really drill down into a specific subject area and develop expertise in that area. Obviously, a master's gives individuals a sense of personal achievement, so learning new challenges and overcoming them and developing skills, both key transferable skills and academic skills as well. I think from as Caroline said, I mean, it's a key stepping stone. So, if one's interested in enhancing their employability, then a master's really can help differentiate you from other individuals within the potential job market. And especially, I'd say, in the life sciences, I mean, one of the key things, many of our students will either go on to do a PhD or pursue a career in the biosciences industry. And in both those areas, I mean, what employers or institutions are really looking for are individuals that have got a good raft of laboratory experience. And of course, doing one of our masters, at least one of our masters in biological sciences, for instance, will give you really enhance your laboratory skills and make you really employable. And I think that's a really useful thing if you're looking to further your career in the biological sciences.
Ledin, any thoughts from yourself?
Yeah, just to add to what we already heard. So the same is true for our programs in international relations more broadly. Our three programs, one is international relations in general. We also have international security studies and also human rights and global ethics. And all of those programs really can help boost your CV if you're looking to go into any area of work that is related to policy or research in those fields specifically. Especially in terms of human rights or global ethics, we have a lot of students who tend to go to work in policy research for consultancy companies or non-governmental organizations or charities as well. There's a lot of human rights related charities, and they always want more experts with postgraduate degrees specifically on such a thing as human rights or political ethics, for example. International security as well, it's another big draw for anyone wanting to go into the security studies world or looking for potential work in the civil service, especially in the areas of defence or the security and intelligence services as well. There's also broader work that a lot of our students go on to do with political parties, staffing work, as well as all sorts of institutions, organisations that do relevant research. Beyond those sort of more targeted areas, the transferable skills that you learn doing what our degrees do curriculum, which is a lot of reading and writing and discussing the materials and the subject matter, just gives you a lot of transferable skills in researching really difficult subjects and condensing what you've learned into relatively short essays, given how much you'll end up wanting to say about the subjects that you've ended up focusing on. So in that sort of practical sense, there's a lot of specifics areas in the policy relevant world that you can get from IR, but also a lot of the transferable skills as well. But I think more broadly, and perhaps from a more human level, especially now with a more generous UK government support for postgraduate study for those who qualify for it, it's just another year for you to study what you enjoy, or to, you know, go into more depth from what you learned from your undergraduate, or to change track and do a new thing. So we have people from outside IR or history coming to do an IR degree with us, people from geography, from the sciences even. We even have lawyers, believe it or not, trying their hand at politics, and it turns out that they like it. So we have a lot of people just getting into a subject that they enjoy, and that this year at a master's is just another year for you to think about what you want to do after your studies as well, and then to enter whatever it is you're going to do in the job market with that enhanced CV at the end. So it's another year to really plan what you want to do and think about it if you're not too sure right now, and also it's a chance for you to just get another year of doing things that you like doing in your undergrad, hopefully as well. When I was a student, I didn't really click with my studies until maybe the end of my second year, and then I was really enjoying my third year, and before I knew it, the year was over. So I stayed on for another year and then really enjoyed the masters, because I understood finally what academic study was all about. You know, I didn't get it straight away in my undergrad years. So yeah, that's I think that's enough from me for now. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Yeah, and I really agree in terms of that kind of another year to kind of work out what do you want to do in life is always a nice thing to be able to do. Any final thoughts from you, Kaustav, on that particular question?
Thank you, Elliot. My colleagues have already said the general benefits of doing a master's. So from the business school point of view, as I said, that there is a thread which ties all the programs, and the common point is, there are a couple of common points. First is, all the students have opportunities of either going to the corporate sector or going to academia, or in between, like policy institutes or in World Bank or Bank of England, IMF. Now, master's program, postgraduate studies actually enhances the skills of the students so that they are more sure whether they want to go for academia, whether they want to work for corporate sectors. And with respect to the management programs, I would like to mention that people often ask that why should one do a postgraduate in management program rather than doing an MBA? Well, there are two things which we might mention. First, in MBA, you should do a specialization like in marketing, HR. But here in Leicester, they would actually make you specialize, because now people have to have the specific skills to actually do well in their jobs. And finally, if one observes the trend around the world, being in the United States, be here, all the famous MBA programs, they're actually cutting down in size. Places like Carnegie Mellon, places like Wharton, everywhere, these MBA programs are cutting down in size, and they're being replaced by master's program, which actually focuses on enhancing specific skills. So postgraduate studies really is a gateway for you to decide whether you want to go for academia, whether you want to go for purely corporate jobs, or whether you want to be in between somewhere. So it's a great opportunity for you to achieve this. And also the current visa rules in UK actually allows you to work in this country after you graduate. So that is also another thing which contributes to the interest of people in the postgraduate studies in this country. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So yeah, so really thorough answers there from everyone. So thank you for that. On the topic of in terms of the audience today, there's quite a few students we understand haven't yet made an application for postgraduate study. So I wonder if the panel can give any kind of hints and tips about if there's anything particularly you look for in an application for postgraduate study that might be different from undergraduate level, or if there are lots of students on the today's session that have applied for postgraduate study already, is there anything particular that you think stands out in a postgraduate student? What is it that makes the strongest postgraduate students flourish? And Jonathan, we'll come to you first on that question.
Okay, thanks very much again, Elliot. I mean, there are a number of things. I'd say probably top of my list is having an inquisitive nature. I think, especially in the biological sciences, you need an inherent curiosity in what you're doing. Obviously, there's a good foundation of knowledge that a student needs to build up, and it certainly being curious helps with that. But when you get yourselves into doing your own experiments and your own research, you'll find that it's not always easy and things often go wrong. And just really wanting to know the answer to something really helps you push past those times when you feel like things just aren't working out and they may never work, so that you can actually see the project to its fruition and get somewhere. So I'd say, you know, being inquisitive and having that drive, just really wanting to know the answer to things that people don't know the answers to, and you want to be the first person to figure them out. I think that's a really essential quality, I think, in a master's student. Yeah, again, leading on from that, I'd say, you know, being dynamic, curious, just allowing you to run with your thoughts and ask questions and that might lead people in directions that no one's ever gone before is really helpful as well. So I'd say, certainly for me, just being inquisitive and able to accept challenges and failure and just being curious enough to push beyond those is a really important trait, I'd say.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Bledin, is there any is it the same kind of thoughts from your side within history and politics, or are you looking for completely different things?
I think there's a lot of crossover. I mean, in terms of what makes a postgrad student stand out, I mean, I agree in that there has to be that inquisitive nature. I think that the better postgrad students are those who tend to be more proactive in their attitude to learning, maybe more so in our studies here in humanities and social sciences, especially in IR, because so much of our program is based on reading, and really you have to do a lot of the reading to get the best out of the program and the best out of the seminars in our program. So we don't sort of have that many lectures, for example, in our programs. The bulk of the actual contact hours will be conversational. We'll be discussing the reading materials, discussing the issues, the policy problems. So that requires a lot of sort of enthusiasm on your part to just go and do the reading. And then when it comes to the essays, there is a really high expectation in terms of have you actually done a lot of reading for this, and so that really sort of what separates our masters cohort more from the bachelors, but also reflects the more sort of egalitarian approach that we have in our seminars and our classes, where whereas maybe on the undergraduate level we take more of a teacher and student role, but at the master's level we're more of a sort of collaborating researchers in a sense, because of the depth of reading that the students do, and it's really much more about the staff facilitating the masterclass conversation, not just giving you what you need to know to pass. It's about your conversation and discussions. Also, that has also reflected on your eagerness to go and talk to staff about essay preparations and plans. So our essays are around 4.5 or 5,000 words long. That's a significant piece of work, and that's what every module, at the end of every module, you are expected to talk to your tutors about, you know, your plans and your ideas and what to focus on in those essays. So again, it's about that one-to-one conversation there with staff and your proactiveness to do that. For those who are applying or haven't yet applied, in terms of the sort of what we look for beyond the numbers, in terms of the tariffs for entry, in terms of what we might look at in the personal statements, just an idea of why do you want to do this particular subject. So if you're going to do an MA in human rights and global ethics as opposed to security studies, why have you picked human rights and global ethics? Tell us about your specific subject interests, If you've done a degree in a similar field before, or you did one module about this in a degree and you want to then focus much more about it now, tell us why. What debates or topics in it that really animate you? And then if you do have an idea of what you want to do with your career, tell us about your plans. And that just shows that you are thinking about why you want to come and do this program and what you plan to do with it afterwards. So that's sort of the big thing I look at in the personal statements that I get to read.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And someone had literally submitted a question saying, what do you look for in a personal statement, which is excellent. So Kaustav, from the School of Business point of view, is there anything particular that yourselves are either looking for in an application or in kind of the strongest students that you see across the school?
Thank you, Elliot. Well, for the business school programs, there is one uniqueness. I mean, not only for the business school program, there might be other programs as well, that all these postgraduate programs you can join even if you do not have a first degree in that relevant subject. So for example, for accounting and finance and financial risk management, we can accept students if they have had a good undergraduate performance and some background in mathematics and statistics and English. Same for the marketing programs and management programs, some kind of English background and some kind of mathematics background. So if they actually express that why they're interested in the programs in the business school. For example, many people by reading Financial Times can be interested in finance. So they might have some kind of original interest to undertake some studies. It's a different thing when they will come, they will learn things in more detail so that they don't see things like a person who has not got this education. So as long as they express their interest and they have had a formidable performance in their undergraduate studies and the mathematics or English requirement, we always accept those students.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And finally, over to you, Caroline, in terms of your opinion on this question. You've also had a specific question about if you could give a bit of an overview on the industrial training under the MSc in GIS and the potential of securing a placement in the industry for students. So if you could cover that question as well, that would be really helpful.
Okay, thank you. Yes, in terms of what we look for in our postgraduate students and what makes them stand out, I mean, my colleagues have obviously made some really excellent points around this, and yeah, those are very much what we're looking for as well for our programs in the School of Geography, Geology and the Environment. So specifically in terms of applications, we ask for a second-class undergraduate degree and we indicate, you know, a range of areas: geography, earth sciences, environmental sciences, for example. But we are always willing to consider non-standard applications. So we've had some excellent students in the past who maybe have considerable professional experience in the field, are perhaps coming from a different area in their undergraduate degree. So we would always urge people interested in our programs to put in that application and use your personal statement to explain, as Bledin and other colleagues have said, why is it you want to undertake this particular postgraduate study? What do you think your skills, your qualifications are? Even if they're non-standard, we are willing to look at those and consider those. We've had some excellent master's students in the past who come from a variety of professional, perhaps non-standard backgrounds. And in terms of both the personal statement and what makes our actual students excel, it is that passion for the subject. We want to see your drive, your enthusiasm for the particular masters, the particular topic that you're applying for. So it's something that really makes you stand out when you, both in your application and when you come to study with us. There's got to be that commitment, that being proactive, being self-motivated, because I think, as Bledin said earlier, then there is that expectation that you will be undertaking a lot of reading, a lot of exploration of the topics. Obviously, you will have the lectures, the seminars, your personal tutor, but at a postgraduate level, you are engaging with the lecturers, the professors, in a slightly different way. So we are looking for you to be much more kind of proactive. But it's having that excitement about your subject and that willingness to really have your ideas challenged and to think through and process those challenges. Having that openness But I say that enthusiasm and that passion is really central, and what we're looking for in your application, and which also shapes a really successful postgraduate student. In relation to the question about the GIS, so as I mentioned previously, we have a GIS with industry version of our master's programme, where you complete the taught component and the dissertation, but you can also apply for an industrial placement during your time with us. So in terms of securing that placement, this is something that we work with you to do when you arrive in Leicester. So you don't need to secure anything before you start with us, but equally we do not guarantee you an industrial placement. So there are a number of sessions, a lot of support when you arrive in Leicester to help you identify that placement and secure that placement. So that's how that kind of process works. And to date, the vast majority of our students who've taken that route have been successful in securing a placement, which has really been very beneficial to them, I think, in terms of their studies and their future career prospects. If anybody has any more detailed questions on the GIS programmes, my colleague Nick Tate, who is the director of GIS, will be available in the chat for postgraduate study, which I think starts at midday.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for covering off the question as well. So we've had a question in. It's about a course that we don't have a panelist on, but actually it's a slightly broader question as well in terms of the comparison with studying via campus-based learning or distance learning, and how that either is similar or different. Ledin, can I come to you in terms of kind of your opinion on that particular question?
Yes, so in international relations, in IR here, we have a very large distance learning program that's been running for over 10 years now. So we've been doing distance learning before everybody else has started doing it in response to the pandemic. So we have a very well-established program there. We have, I believe, 5 different programs on our distance learning side. We've got international relations and human rights and global ethics, as we do on the campus. But also we have a program on intelligence studies, security, conflict and development. And good thing I prepared the list because I usually forget one of the 5. It is, I believe, conflict, security and development. I'm not sure, but you can find out all the correct names of the programs. I'm only a deputy director on the DL program, but we have a number of programs there that rely on the same kind of expertise that we use on our campus programs. So the main difference really between the distance learning and the campus programs for us in IR really is the issue of synchronicity or live teaching really. So on the campus program, the bulk of our teaching really is on seminars. And on the distance learning program, the bulk of the actual teaching interaction is based on different kinds of activities on our virtual learning environment called Blackboard, and that has a different set of exercises such as summarizing pieces of reading to writing on a joint thread, as well as submitting various kinds of small exercises for feedback from tutors and also other students on the program. And that is done in an asynchronous fashion, which means that things are structured on a weekly activity basis, so that wherever you are in the world, and also if you have a job and you're studying in a part-time, you can fit the distance learning program around your time zone and your work-life balance as well. Whereas on the campus program, we have timetabled hours for our seminars, whether you're part-time or full-time, and those are sort of compulsory attendance sessions. But for both our programs, there is a high expectation in terms of the amount of reading that you do, and also in the performance in the essays as well. So the quality in terms of the assessments are the same in 2 programs. It's just that, yeah, the main difference really is in live seminars for the campus program, and then asynchronous online activities for the distance learning. So that in a nutshell is the main difference. We still have the dissertation project as well for both programs as well. So, but in terms of the materials and the subjects, they are very, very similar, and you know, the same body of staff as well, and also you'll be put into the same pool of potential dissertation supervisors on the distance learning program as you would on the campus, where we try to match you up on your dissertation subject with an actual resident expert academic as well.
Perfect, thank you very much. And coming to you next, Kaustav. So within the School of Business, I'm obviously aware you've got a range of distance learning programs as well. So are your answers similar to that question to Bledin? And you've actually had also a more specific School of Business question come into the Q&A as well. So if you could answer this too. So how do MSc programs work in the School of Business? Are they more of a blend of corporate case studies and research, or more application based? So if you could take the kind of difference between campus-based and DL question, and then also that particular MSc question, that would be really helpful.
Thank you, Elliot. So first, coming to the difference between distance learning and the campus-based. So I think I agree with Bledin. I mean, my answer would be similar to what Bledin just said. But I would also like to mention that even during the time last year when we had to go for blended learning approach, there was a clear difference between distance learning course and so-called campus-based course, because even with the blended learning approach, we made it sure that we would go for live sessions regularly, and we would replicate things online which we would have done in the classroom thing. So one of the things in the classroom is we would do a lot of board work. So most of our lecturers, what we did was that we actually adopted, either we took a tablet, we connected the tablet to the screen, and that tablet became our virtual blackboard, or someone used a webcam to make a blackboard kind of environment. So there was specific effort put in to see that the campus-based flavor is retained even in the blended learning approach. Now, coming to the master's program, so any postgraduate program, it is based on modules which do everything. The first thing is that building the basic things, right? Like without learning alphabets, one cannot read Shakespeare. Similarly, first thing, we have some kind of core modules where we actually build the skills to understand things. And later on, there are specific modules which does application-based things. Finally, every postgraduate student is required to write a dissertation. So dissertation is a thing where a person actually expresses his independent on his choice. Of course, there is a supervisor who will always guide the student, but that person is not independent, which is actually towards preparing the student in their work life, when many of the things they have to do independently. So for example, one of the students in our previous cohort, he had worked on the topic that whether a contactless payment card, how does it actually changes the spending habit of people? So this kind of practical things people have done. However, to do that, you need to know how to analyze data. So you need to know data analysis properly. So you need to know a theoretical course properly. You need to know what are the basics of economics and finance to understand those kind of questions. So it's a combination of both. Without one, it's a complementary in nature. So without the one, the application cannot stand on its own, and vice versa. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So we're coming towards the end of our panel session, so but please do keep sending your questions in, as we've got our colleagues Christina and Conrad behind the scenes feverishly typing away the answers to those. So I'm going to focus now kind of our last broad question about Leicester more specifically, and what our panelists thinks makes the University of Leicester such a great place to come and do postgraduate study, and why students should pick here as opposed to elsewhere. Bledin, I'll come to you first, if that's okay on that question. And if there are any kind of last minute hints and tips that you have about kind of differences between undergrad and postgrad study, particularly here at Leicester, then please do feel free to chip in with those too.
Thanks. Well, where do I start? I moved to Leicester about 3.5 years ago when I started work here at the University of Leicester, and yeah, I like the city, and you know, as a country boy from Wales, I think that's high praise for a city. So in terms of Leicester itself, you know, Leicester's a pleasant city. It's got lots of green spaces, which again very important for me as a country boy, and you know, Leicester's got all the amenities that you might expect in a city, and you know, Leicester is on the small side for a city as well, but is also extremely well connected to other places as well. So international transport links, you know, COVID restrictions aside, hopefully things will loosen up in the months to come. But even within the UK, but also internationally, the connections and links are fairly easy to do and get to from Leicester. Leicester itself is nice for anyone who hasn't been to Leicester before. If you ever do visit, make sure you go to Gelato Village. It's the best ice cream, gelato, I should say, in the city. And as we heard from Elliot earlier, a fantastically diverse city as well. For me specifically as well, there's the National Space Centre here at Leicester, which has a rocket tower and fantastic Cold War exhibit on the space race. In terms of Leicester University, and maybe more specifically to Hyper, we have a lot of fantastic research active staff here at Leicester in very specific and exciting areas. So we have experts on war studies or strategic studies, modern warfare, and I myself among them focusing on the space aspect. We have a range of staff specialising on human rights and ethics issues, as you might expect, given our MA programme on that. We have regional experts as well on Africa and Latin America and contemporary international relations. And we have a lot of critical theory and political ethics and political theory staff here as well. And you know, our staff are research active. You can go on our website and look at who we are as a department, look at our publications and look at where we're researching, because if you want to do a dissertation in any of those areas, there's not a guaranteed chance, but there is a reasonably high chance that you'll be allocated them as a dissertation supervisor if they are available for when you do your dissertation here. So I think we have quite a unique identity in terms of our research active staff. And on the campus program, you know, all our staff are full-time as well. So you know, they're dedicated staff working on our programs. And if you're a returning student, if you've already done your undergraduate studies here, then hopefully, you know who we are already. You can hit the ground running at the start of your studies. You know how the systems work here, and you know, you're just more at home with us as staff, as well as the place as well. And our cohort here at Leicester in Hyper and on the IR side is relatively small as well compared to a lot of other masters programs, which can be extremely large. So our master's cohorts tend to be around 20 to 30 people every year. And you know, our seminars, therefore, are fairly small. They're between 5 and at most 15 people. So by the end of every semester, you'll get to know your fellow MA students on your modules very, very well. And it makes for a really good sort of dissertation experience as well, when we get the entire cohort together to talk through the dissertations before you're allocated your unique, your dedicated dissertation supervisor as well. So there's a sort of more intimate, close-knit community really with the MA, because we're not absolutely massive, like some programs as well. So hopefully that's a bit more of an elite educational one-to-one small group teaching approach that we can offer here at Hyper.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Jonathan, coming to you next as well. And if whilst you're answering the question, you can also briefly answer, there's been a question in the Q&A about how much time is expected from us to prepare a research proposal for a PhD in, oh, that's in management, but generally in terms of PhDs, or how much time would you suggest people take to prepare that proposal, but also what makes Leicester such a good place?
Okay, I'll do my best for that. So I've been in Leicester since 2006. I must confess I'd never been to Leicester until I came for my job interview, so I didn't really know what to expect. I would just echo what Bleddyn says. You know, as a city, it's a small city. I find it very friendly. I don't know what the statistics are, but I find it a very safe city to live in. I really enjoy the diversity in the city. The campus itself is close to town. We've got a nice little footpath called New Walk that takes you straight from campus into town. There's plenty of shops and restaurants. other things to do around there. And again, as a keen cyclist, you know, you just go in the opposite direction to the university and you're pretty much in the countryside. So I think you really have the best of both worlds with respect to the town itself. And it's geographically very close to most of the rest of England. There's one applicant that once applied for a PhD position told me he was in the University of Leicester Surfing Club because the University of Leicester is closest to all coasts in the United Kingdom, apparently. So there we go. I'd say the university itself, you know, I've worked in a number of places and usually I'm in some satellite building really far away from the central campus. That tends to be the way biological sciences is. And what I really like about Leicester is it's a small campus-based university, and that makes it quite a vibrant environment. So, you know, you step outside your lab and you're really immersed in the university itself. There's a lot going on. There's always, you know, current times accepted, but under normal situations, there's always a lot of people on campus and a lot of things go on. So I really appreciate that. It makes you feel like you're part of the university as a whole rather than just part of a particular department or college. In terms of studying in the College of Life Sciences, again, you know, we're very much a research-informed institution, so you'll be being taught by people who are at the cutting edge of their particular research fields. We've got experts in data handling and statistics, cancer biology, structural biology, inflammation, tuberculosis, bacteriophages, and so on and so forth. So we've got people really at the leading edge of their research fields that will be teaching you, and they're supported by a really impressive suite of cutting edge facilities that include things like our cryo-electron microscope, bioinformatics and biostatistics analysis hubs, a wide raft of imaging equipment, flow cytometry equipment, and protein expression labs as well. So we're really well kitted out with respect to giving students access to some really cutting edge equipment when they're training to do their master's courses. Anything else I can think of? Well, just to echo what you said in the beginning, Elliot, you know, we're in the top 25 in the UK, a very, very diverse city, and I think in terms of employment prospects as well, the University of Leicester is a good place to study at if you're interested in using a master's as a stepping stone to go on and do further your expertise and your employability in the wider sector.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Caroline, over to you for your final thoughts, really, of studying at Leicester, particularly, and what makes it such an interesting place to take a postgraduate course.
Okay, thank you, Elliot. Yes, just briefly. I mean, I think my colleagues have really, you know, explained why Leicester as a city is a really exciting, vibrant place to study. And I think, you know, the proximity of London, of other major urban centres, but also, you know, the countryside. So for those of you who are into surfing or rock climbing or something like that, the university has a lot of clubs which would enable you to get out and to explore and to, you know, follow your passions in these areas. But I think in terms of studying within the university, one of the statistics we started out with was the sort of sustainability ranking of the university, and that sort of shows how this concern with environmental issues and sustainability is kind of central to the ethos of many of the university's activities. And within my school, Geography, Geology and the Environment, as the name suggests, you know, for our master's programmes, and thinking particularly about the new Environmental Futures programme in this sense, you will benefit from that sort of interdisciplinarity. So as with the other schools and departments that my colleagues have talked about, we have a very research active staff who are undertaking world-leading research in a number of areas around environmental issues, around climate modelling, around Earth observation, remote sensing, GIS, for example. And those are people who are going to be teaching you. So our teaching, particularly at master's level, is very much research led. And you know, we, for example, in the new Environmental Futures programme, we have a module on the Anthropocene, which is co-taught by geologists and by human geographers. So it's giving you interesting new critical angles on some of these really important issues. And also we tend to recruit quite a high proportion of international students to our master's programmes. So as Bledin was saying, in terms of those seminar discussions, in terms of those encounters with not only your lecturers and the researchers in the department, but also with your student cohort, that's a really exciting, vibrant learning environment. So yeah, so those are some of the key points that I think make Leicester really stand out.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And for final thoughts and to close off the session, over to you, Kastan, from the School of Business perspective.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, my colleagues already said what is the benefit about studying in Leicester. Well, in the School of Business, you can see my background. This is our new campus, the Brookfield campus. So although we are a separate campus now, we are not far away from the main campus. You can enjoy all the facilities in the main campus. It's only a 10 minutes walk. And this campus is also very close to the railway station. And we have Bloomberg trading terminals. We have many social spaces for studying, group work. There are many cafes. And all the master's program, all the postgraduate programs in the School of Business, they will actually give you a lot of opportunities for employment. We have our careers team in the university, which is very good. We also have a specialized career team in the university, in the business school as well. And finally, the other thing is, as I said, that Leicester is a city which is very vibrant. Well, one of the things I must mention is that the time you require from Leicester to go to the London city centre or the central London is sometimes almost the same you take the time to travel from any of the suburbs of London to central London. So we are not far away from London, but we don't have the disadvantages of London, that the accommodation is cheap and the city is much more affordable. And finally, I would say that from the business school's point of view, all our faculty members not only engage in cutting edge academic research, so we take special care in educating people and enhancing your skills. So if you would join us, we would not only educate you, we will not only teach you, we will care for you. So with this note, I would like to end this, and we hope that many of you will join this institution in the coming academic year. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, thanks, Karl-Staff, and thanks to my colleagues, Caroline, Jonathan and Bledin for all of your insights throughout this morning's welcome session. We hope those that have joined us today have really enjoyed it. If you are watching this on demand, we hope you enjoyed it as well. In terms of the rest of today's Postgraduate Open Day, we've got sessions coming up in a couple of minutes' time on postgraduate funding for UK students, as well as a session specifically for international students starting here in September. So if you head into the link that I popped in the Q&A chat back to our Open Days page, you can join our live sessions for those. As discussed as well on that page, there's also the links to our live chat opportunities all throughout the day for more specific course questions or application questions or any other questions that you might have at all for staff and students from across the University of Leicester. But thank you very much for joining us again. We hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks to my colleagues, and we'll see you very soon.